Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to Real Estate America's newsroom. Today is April, the very end of April, the 26th. It is Tuesday in the year of our Lord 2022. We've got a jam-packed show here today, ladies and gentlemen. Stick around, buckle up. As some of you saw in the show notes, if you were getting ready for this show, we're going to be talking about a lot of high-quality information. But to open up the show with the notes here, property tax increases have arrived across the United States of America, reducing debt-to-income ratios on borrowers and the amount that they possibly qualify for. We're going to review a Housing Wire report, and it says in Spokane, Washington, a mortgage loan officer at a regional bank has seen about 5 borrowers qualify for a mortgage for one amount, only to have that amount slashed a few months later. They were approved in December, he said, but now they've gone from $450,000 down to $325,000. That's a big difference. So how do the increases in our taxes go ahead and affect our purchasing capability in the United States? We're going to go ahead and talk to a few fine gentlemen about that. Mr. Tim Parnell joins back the show. So all of this big buzz, Mr. Elon Musk is back in the news again and again and again and again. But he does it. He gets the approval to purchase Twitter. So how does this affect real estate? So we're going to have some fun conversation about Twitter with Mr. Nick Sakis and Tony Barbarino on how this rolls into the real estate industry. Are we in a housing bubble, ladies and gentlemen? I know it's all on our breath. It's all in our heart. We're hearing one thing from one person, one thing from another. But Realtor.com Economist says that we might already be there. He says, we're not in a housing bubble just yet, but we're skating close to one if the price continues rising at the current pace. George Ratu, manager of economic research at Realtor.com. Some markets will see a correction if mortgage rates continue to rise, in which sales drop and prices are coming to follow. So we're going to go ahead and talk about this. Are we in a housing bubble, and what the rest of our hosts think about? How to find a home to purchase in a competitive real estate market. Ladies and gentlemen, we've got a report coming out of Tennessee or North Carolina, one of those two, where there was 50 to 100 folks lined up at the door for an open house. And we're going to talk about how to be competitive if you're actually purchasing in this marketplace, and how inflation and oil prices are actually affecting the housing market. What's going on? We've got oil prices up, inflation up, goods up. What's going on, and how does that relate to the housing market? These are all of the things that we're going to talk about today, ladies and gentlemen, so stick around. But I'm going to bring in my illustrious co-host, Mr. Nick Sakis. Hello, Nick. We've got a lot to talk about today. How are you doing?
I like illustrious. That's good.
Yeah, well,
I'll take that.
Room for improvement, as always.
Yeah.
We always have room for improvement.
Yeah. I have a public service announcement for the folks on a little bit of a scary side. Has to do with real estate in terms of things in your garage that might be dangerous. I have a toolbox in my garage, and my 2-year-old son, as we were packing groceries in the garage refrigerator, decided to start opening up the drawers of this 48-inch long toolbox, and it decided to topple on top of him. So fortunately, there was a bunch of stuff on the ground that blocked the fall, and it didn't actually fall on him. But if you have small children, we all hear about securing the dressers and TVs on the wall and stuff like that. Don't necessarily think about the garage toolbox, keeping it locked, but just a little tip. Maybe it might help somebody else as well.
Safety tips are always important. That's fantastic. Yeah, that's a scary moment right there, especially for the little guys. Yeah, for sure. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, if you're listening to us now, we're streaming live on the reunation.com. If you've never heard of reunation.com, go over and check it out. There's a lot of awesome show hosts over there. The whole Real Estate Uncensored crew and a lot more people are getting ready to join the teams here on the reunation.com. But we hear from the Real Estate America's newsroom. We want to hear from you, and we kick out show notes after the show to everybody. So all of the things that we talk about are coming to you, so you can deep dive and put these things in your mind. So make sure you get over to reunation.com. Check us out at our Real Estate America's newsroom page and enter your information to go ahead and get show notes and hot insider news. Also, if you would like to be on the show, or you have any hot insider news yourself you'd like to share with us, please leave us a message. We love to respond and interact with our folks. We got a lot of people signing up, and
we want to get some guests.
Yeah, absolutely. Nick, property taxes are increasing. I saw an April 1st report saying, hey, you know what? The current mortgage lenders and brokers and everybody else, they have to use what's existing. So I think all of this is starting to catch up, and it's going to
percolate
throw
a little
off.
bit.
It's going to throw everybody off here. What are your take on it?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll be interesting. Like you hold back escrow for the close, right? What's going to happen the following year? That's almost. We talked about adjustable rate mortgages and having your payment change in 5 years. Well, what happens when the payment changes in a year, right? Significantly or more significantly than you thought. Yeah, it's really interesting. Uncharted waters.
I tell you what, why don't we bring in Mr. Tim Parnell and Chris Manka to go ahead and join the show with us? I'd love to go ahead and get their thoughts on it. These guys are hot right in the middle of the trenches dealing with this as we speak. So, hello, Mr. Tim Parnell. Christopher, thank you for joining us here on the newsroom today. Tim, I have a quick question for you. It says here, this Housing Wire report, somebody was pre-approved and qualified in December for $450,000, and now all of a sudden, because of the tax change, their purchasability is $325,000. However, so we're dealing with this. Let's say I can go ahead and get locked into a mortgage right now, and that typically has our principal, interest, taxes, and insurance that they're escrowing, especially the taxes every 30 days. Now, what happens at the end of the year when I come into a situation where I have an off balance? Break this down for us. What does this all mean?
Well, I mean, the squeeze is real. The people are getting qualified on fixed income, and that income is getting squeezed by this taxing. And so if you think about it, like even in Texas, like people will look on Zillow and they'll go, oh, I can afford this house because Zillow only shows them the without the taxes and interest, right? They show them that payment. When I get a call from someone out of California, New York, wherever, and they're going, no, I can afford this house, Zillow says, well, here's the problem. It's not including the taxes and insurance. And that was even last year. And now that is going up because we've got these home prices that are going up, $40,000, $50,000 in a year. And so, yeah, those taxes are hit. I'm getting a lot of my past buyers hitting me up right now going, what do I do? What do I do? How do I challenge this? And the only way to challenge that is you've got to look and verify that other houses in your area don't actually, don't justify the taxation. But the hard part is they do justify the taxation based on how they come up with that number. So, I mean, it's just the squeeze is real. People are going to feel it. I know that Texas has got a bill that people are voting on in May to try and ease some of that, but it's going to be a little too late for some.
Property taxes vary dramatically from state to state and city to city, right? And even within different cities, there's multiple tax authorities. So I guess when you're purchasing in a certain location, are you, as a real estate representative, helping your consumer understand what the tax implication is of living in that area? Chris, what's going on in Florida?
Yeah, I've got one of the things that I do is I've got a strong relationship with my title company. So I'll do an estimated net sheet and show, my prospective buyers what those specific, doc stamp, all of the specific taxes are for that, zip code or city, and then give them a good understanding of where that'll play in with their payment and everything, as far as what they can qualify for. But one thing too, I wanted to kind of piggyback on with Tim. One thing to, after they reassess your property after a year, what I've noticed is there's a lot of mistakes on how they actually file it and deed it with the county. If it's, when I go and, I've just sold a couple houses that are fairly new, and you go and you verify it with the county, and it could be a 5-bedroom home with the county, but it might be a 3-bedroom home. So they're just throwing these things into the county, and the accuracy levels are not that great. And that county assessor is going on with what it's actually filed with. So that's another tactic that these actual consumers would want to verify with the county, that it's actually assessed properly and deeded correctly with the county to make sure the taxes are right.
Yeah, it's a great tip, especially for new construction.
Yes, they're all. The accuracy levels are just atrocious with new construction.
Well, and I'm gonna jump in there too and say that one of the places we find discrepancies, it doesn't make sense for most of the time for people to get an appraisal on their home after they already own it, unless they know that their square footage is off. If they're paying more for square footage taxes, right, and they can reduce $100 at 100 square foot at $200 per square foot, that helps. It's just a little bit. That appraisal would take care of itself, having verified that square footage.
Nick, Tampa's the hottest market in the United States of America, and you are smack dab in the middle of it with your team. So this has to be playing a factor. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, 100%. But it's, yeah, as an agent, like, people don't necessarily think about that. Like Tim and Chris said, you go on Zillow and it's like, oh, I can afford this. So people look and they check, oh, I'm renting a house for this much now, or I'm renting an apartment for this much. And Zillow says I can own a house even cheaper. And then they call you, and then you're the bearer of bad news. Your mortgage broker is like, hey, once we break all this down, and hey, there might be some HOA docs in there might be some CDD fees, there might be, these taxes that are increasing. I think it's always good to have that conversation, so that, like Chris said, have that net sheet so that they know. But, we're like in a 3-county area, and there's definitely a significant difference between our 3 counties. Where I live in Pinellas County is one of the highest, as far as taxes are concerned. So, again, being that representative in your market and having that expertise and those conversations with your people, really helps out for you to stand out as an agent in your marketplace when you're having educated conversations with people. If they're talking to 2 or 3 or 4 agents and you bring something like that up, they're going to go, oh, then I need to probably stay with Chris, because he really has my best interest in mind.
Gentlemen, listen to this. According to this housingwire.com report, and ladies and gentlemen, we'll send this out to you if you come over and enter your information on our show page here at REU Nation. You'll get this. But according to Adam, which is a real estate data firm, ladies and gentlemen, assessments won't catch up to the increases for some time, says Rick Sarja, Executive Vice President of Market Intelligence for Real Estate Data at Adam. But the increases are already in progress. There have been large increases in areas that saw large home price increases and recently updated tax assessments, which most of this came out on April 1st here in the United States in a lot of these different marketplaces. So this just happened 2-3 weeks back. But here's a shocking tax increase assessment report. The average property tax bill in Tennessee, which has one of the lowest tax rates in the country, saw a 30% increase in average property taxes paid on single-family homes last year. 30%, ladies and gentlemen, 30%. Average property tax bills in Milwaukee, Wisconsin increased 19%, and residents of Baltimore saw their tax bills rise 12%.
Uncle Sam's making up for the phantom crypto losses I think they're getting right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Anybody that's watching the show, ask us some questions. Throw in your comments below. Do you like paying extra property taxes? So all of this inflation, all of this increase in crazy uncontrollable prices and massive inflation and appreciation, we're all paying for it, right? With taxes. Do you like paying for taxes? Let us know in the comments below. But gentlemen, so if I go ahead and get approved for a mortgage today and I close escrow, let's say in 30 days, everything's locked in, I'm having a standard monthly mortgage payment that I'm expecting, right? I'm making the same amount of money at my job. I have the same amount of debt to income ratios. I haven't tapped into any of my emergency reserves for anything crazy. I'm just a stable household, right? Paying my monthly mortgage payment, which has principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So I'm expecting, let's just say, to make a $2,500 a month payment. But when these taxes lock in my area, what happens at the end of the year with escrow? Gentlemen, tell me about that. Who wants to break it down for me?
So in escrow, your escrow is estimated if your taxes are wrapped up in there. And so it's estimated based on last year's taxes. So yeah, if you get to the end of the next year and the new taxation, if your house goes up, then either your escrow is shorted and you have to come up with a difference depending on the discrepancy, or it's increased for the next year. What it really translates to is more payment out of your pocket for that same house. And when you're talking about that, I'm thinking about a picture I saw of a man holding up a sign that said, I bought my house 40 years ago and I paid 3 times what I paid for it new in taxes. Okay. Like, that was a powerful image, because we don't think about the long-term implications and what am I paying for? And, like, it's the right of property ownership. I mean, the house has been paid for decades ago, but he's paid because the price and value of that house has gone up. He continues to pay 3 times what he paid for it when he first bought it. It's just, it's nuts. It really is. And so then you have to ask the question, is the state truly being good stewards of our taxes that they're getting 30% more of this year over the previous? And, so is it time for more regulation, for the consumers, to the benefit of the consumers, because it is out of control. So
Chris, when my grandparents passed away, their personal household was completely paid off. And I know the heirs to the estate were looking and shocked at the actual annual tax bill that was getting paid. And it was, at the time, the taxes that were due, the rents that were capable in that area at the time almost couldn't even cover the taxes on what was necessary to go ahead and live in that home. What are your thoughts?
Well, and with these two gentlemen too, it's really understanding your hyper local area and being involved and knowing what is happening as far as your local government, and seeing specific bills that may be passed that will raise your local or county taxes too, because that's going to affect the overall bill that you may end up paying for. As far as we've got exponential growth here in Central Florida, so there's going to be new schools, new infrastructure, new roads. So county by county, Orange County is 2 points higher than Lake County. So when people are really concerned about house prices or county taxes, I'm going to steer them over to Lake County, because they are going to get a little bit cheaper of a tax bill over in Lake County than Orange County. So, really kind of knowing your hyper local area and what's going on a government level, on a city level, and having those relationships with the commissioners, with the city council, with your, chamber of commerce, is you're going to get a lot of inside information as what's happening in the future too, that you can pass on to your clients.
Nick, should I be putting extra money away if I have it right now for the end of the year on my mortgage? Because maybe I should be not purchasing the toys and gifts for my kids, because I might have to pay it to the government.
So no 86-inch TV for the bedroom is what you're saying?
Yeah.
That's a shame. I mean, yeah, right now it's like cautiously optimistic. I keep saying that to everybody, right? If for us in business, like we're all business owners, it's time to really take a look at what you're spending money on, right? And I think educating your consumers the same way. Like it's heartbreaking to get somebody approved for a mortgage and them go out and buy a car, or them go out and get a furniture credit card at King's or something like that 5 days before closing. I think we need to be stewards and educate the people as to, this is probably a good idea. These are things that are going on even after you purchase, so that they know they might need to put some shekels away, go to Outback Steakhouse one last time a month and put that money in the bank, right?
Outback Steakhouse one last time. I did see a report a couple days ago that a lot of the restaurateurs across the U.S. are starting to see a slowing in consumers at their stores, from gelato shops to restaurants and different things. And they're concerned because of the high inflation, gas prices, and everything else that we're all dealing with, that it's going to be a tough rest of the year. So it'll be interesting to go ahead and see what happened. Ladies and gentlemen, Elon Musk is back in the news. He did it again. Who's this guy? I think everybody knows. But Twitter's board accepted his offer. So what does this mean, and what's going on in real estate? We've got a news clip here from Fox that kind of breaks it down a little bit for us.
Now to some news.
Yeah, and apparently it has happened. We know that a couple of weeks ago, Elon Musk put in an offer of almost $44 billion to buy Twitter, and apparently we're hearing it is now a done deal. That Twitter's board, after much consideration, has decided that they're going to take his offer. The last we heard, it was around $54 a share, but because, as Sandra pointed out earlier, the share price was rising, Musk might have had to kick in another billion or so dollars. But it looks like Twitter is going to be transitioning from a public company to a privately held company now, with Elon Musk at its head. And Sandra, everybody's wondering what this is going to mean. And apparently a lot of liberals have been almost losing their minds over this idea.
This is a done deal. The press release is official. officially out. Elon Musk to acquire Twitter. The deal, $54.20 a share, $54.20 a share. The news.
All right, gentlemen. Elon Musk is the sole owner of Twitter. So Twitter's been around for a long time, since the early 2000s. We saw a lot of folks in the news using Twitter, tweeting about. A lot of our political leaders are sharing their information, but business has gotten in there. It's been a good way to kind of accentuate your brand and tell people about who you are, what you do. Great social platform has been historically to go ahead and communicate with folks that are inside of your tribe. But how does this pertain to real estate? And Nick, one of the things I wanted to ask you, I know you're a huge marketer in the real estate industry, and Twitter has been a huge thing. We saw some changes here over the last couple of years, and I think a lot of that had to do with the election and some of our political leaders getting removed or censored on some of these different platforms. Obviously, this is mainstream news. This is what we're all dealing with as Americans right now. This is happening. But I've seen a large step away from a lot of people on that platform. And now I think that once Elon Musk comes back in, I've already started hearing a lot of people are wanting to come back to the platform to utilize the tool for what it is. So if you are that kind of person, Nick, how do you get out onto Twitter? How does this work on the real estate side of the house from a representative of real estate as a professional and a potential consumer? Kind of break it down for us.
I think first things first, right? It is kind of a perfect storm. I think Twitter got a resurgence here in the past 3 to 4 years with the rise of cryptocurrency, because it turned into crypto Twitter. So a lot of millennials that kind of abandoned Twitter came back in full force just based on the cryptocurrency news and the stuff that was going on there. So it was already kind of peaking, people coming back. And then now this Elon Musk news is really, really big. The thing to pay attention about, you might have read this headline as an agent and gone like, okay, who cares? Like, it's cool. Maybe I'll sign up for Twitter again and get back on the platform because I like what he's doing. But if you think in terms of a marketer, right, anywhere attention goes, money follows. So if you're heavy right now, probably the most complementary platform as far as searchability is Instagram. So if you're an agent right now and you are heavy on Instagram and you know how to work hashtags on Instagram and get into group chats with people and put in your 2 cents, do local searches, all that is going to be the same relevancy on Twitter. And there's going to be a lot more people on Twitter the same way that they are on Instagram, talking about their neighborhoods, talking about their houses. And so anytime there's that massive amount of attention, if you're an agent, if you're a broker, I would, if you have a Twitter account and you haven't been on it in 10 years, dust it off, play around a little bit, because I promise you, you're going to want to be on that platform a little more often, doing some basic searches in your area to see what people are talking about real estate wise.
Tony, a lot of prospective buyers and sellers are going to start getting back onto this platform as well, and they're going to be looking for folks that are educational ambassadors in their local marketplaces. Is this something that you're going to start reincorporating heavy into your infrastructure?
Absolutely. I've been using Twitter incrementally, lightly over time. And from the non-marketing perspective, and just to kind of put it out there, is that with Twitter, what I believe is going to happen now that Elon Musk is going to take it over, and if there is going to be more freedom and transparency, one of my concerns will be on the cautionary side is agents better watch what they do, because if you have tens of thousands of people in your community all start talking badly about your service, or they're exchanging information and things are incorrect, you have an opportunity to come in and contribute to try to correct things. So what I appreciate about Twitter for the consumer side is it's going to be a big open town hall style conversation, whether it's sharing information, realtors have a chance to genuinely share information, having this conversation, and of course it'll get some attention for us on the marketing side. So Twitter to me looks like it's going to be a really big party with tens of thousands of people in my community, and hopefully with people who complain or ask questions, we're able to have a more open, free-flowing dialogue. Of course, there's going to be marketing mixed in there, but when companies like Toyota, for example, I had a problem with our new car. I posted on there. 2 minutes later, they got back to me because they knew, so they're watching. So what I'm going to do as a realtor is not only keep trying to share helpful content and answer questions so people can learn about me, is I'm going to make sure, as I keep running my business, really nicely, is to keep that going, because you really don't want people to be upset on that, because a lot of people can see it really quick and it could flame, conversation as well as sharing data, for example, and experiences and resources.
Nick, break it down for people that have never used Twitter before. Like, what is this platform, real quick? What kind of advantages can they have by getting on there and searching out some professionals or leaders in their marketplace, or if they're in a certain industry, and kind of break that down for the new person and kind of talk about the benefits of the platform and why it was typically built.
Yeah, the way that the reason for it is it kind of broke down the wall of, you didn't have the excuse anymore of, oh, I don't know that person. You could literally, as an individual, so it was a way for individuals to connect with really powerful people, like the president, right? And or big brands. So like before Twitter, there really wasn't a way to contact, Jeff Bezos on a direct level unless you were inside Amazon and you had his direct email address or a cell phone number to text him or his assistant or whatever. So Twitter kind of broke down those walls and said, all right, if you're on this platform, people are going to have the ability to tweet at you, meaning tag you and give their 2 cents about you on this platform. And it also gave you the ability to connect with these people in a way where you might not have somebody's cell phone number, but you can private message them. And so it kind of sparked the beginning of social media as a form of communication that didn't have to do with just email and cell phone. And that was kind of the basis around it, right? When it first popped and people were like, oh, I don't really care about sharing what I ate for lunch. That was kind of like the negative side of Twitter. People were like, I don't really care. This guy ate a Cuban sandwich for lunch. Like, who cares, right? But it was really about connecting with people, and used properly, it was really, really powerful, because it was a way for you to get your message out in front of a lot of people based on a content source or a commonly shared, um, item, if you will. So it really gave you the ability to get more public with your opinion. But really, before video, right, even was really out there. Now it's like YouTube, you can make a video, you can be an expert. On Twitter, you can really go out there and say, this is my short take on this thing, and I tag the person, and it gives you a lot of attention and eyeballs. So that's what I was saying now. Um, dust off your profile if you don't have it, or create a profile, because there's going to be a lot more people talking on Twitter in your local market. Now, this isn't going to be a bloodbath. It's not like, oh, Elon's a CEO, and next thing you know, it's going to be like a frat party and anybody can say whatever they want. There's like the first level of this is to dismantle. I forget the name of it. I probably should have got it before the show. They created an algorithm that automatically changes people's verbiage on the platform, and that was one of the biggest things. So like if you said something about getting a shot, right, quote unquote, and I don't have a shot, if somebody, like, the algorithm would take that and they would say I do have a shot, and they would change your words for you on the platform, and a lot of people got upset about that. So what the first level of this is, that transparency, that level of transparency will be there. And if things are corrected with that algorithm, it's going to have like an asterisk on it so that that comment was altered. Where right now, you don't know if people's comments have been altered. That's been the biggest kind of plague, with these platforms. But it's not like not much else is going to change. You're not going to log on and see, some ridiculous content that shouldn't be there. It's really all around the auto censorship and people not knowing that things were changed.
All right. Interesting. Well, when Twitter first came out, I mean, I didn't share a lot of information on Twitter,
Right.
but I had an account, but I was able to connect to some of the other people that I personally wanted to, so I can kind of see the stuff that they're sharing and really just kind of follow them around. And I think it was a wonderful thing. So interesting to go ahead and see all of this stuff come back, Nick. Moving on to our next segment. Are we in a housing bubble, ladies and gentlemen? Are we in a housing bubble? I think everybody keeps asking it. We've got all of these different people saying yes, people saying no. But according to a housing, or let's see here, according to realtor.com economist, he says we might already be there. Nick, what are your thoughts here? He says we're not in a housing bubble just yet, but we're skating close to one if the price continues to rise at the current pace. And some markets are going to see a correction if mortgage rates continue to rise, in which sales will drop, prices will follow. A lot of fast rising home prices, out of control bidding wars, investors flooding the marketplaces. What's this thing?
Yeah.
What are people thinking about?
There's two things that are coming into play now. We talked about the pandemic before, and people working from home, and the remote job scenario where you could live wherever you wanted to. So it made a lot of sense if you were in a affluent area and you didn't need to be at an office every day, that you could move to a state, cash out where you are. I think, Tim, what did you call it? The transitory
migration bubble or
migration bubble, right? So what's happening now is these employers are starting to make people come back to work, and that's coming back full force. So now you have that playing into effect where people don't have as much freedom to move from state to state, and then you have just overall inflation and affordability in that certain specific area. So yeah, there might not be a lot of houses for sale, which people say like that's the first indication of over inventory. But if people can't afford it and they have to stay where they're at because of their job, what's going to happen? Like, so
Tim, break this down for us. There's always a cause and effect of everything in life, right? The Fed has increased the interest rates, affordability. We're seeing taxes obviously go up from segment number one. That's all factored into these debt to income ratios. We're paying a high amount at the gas pumps. We're paying more for our food. I mean, so at some point, what's going to happen? If we go ahead and actually even think about consumers and their thoughts on maybe I should or shouldn't purchase that item, maybe I should or shouldn't go to that restaurant and come back. Now it's affecting local and small business and medium and large business, right, all across the United States of America. I think that employers, if they're seeing a turn down in purchasing, they're going to have to reevaluate their workforce, their overhead, possibly lay off people, jobs. These are all things that we've been through historically, but it's brewing here. So break it down for us. What are your thoughts? Are we in an inadvertent housing bubble? Is it to a local market, or is it a national type thing?
Oh, I think we are in a national, even global financial bubble. I think we are in and I've heard the term being used, everything bubble. So yes, real estate is wrapped up into that as well. People are, in the business that I'm in with helping people figure out how to protect their wealth from an incoming collapse. They're also looking to try and figure out, can they protect their equity? And, but at the same time, they're trying to do that, as we keep coming back to fixed income. When everything rises to the degree that you are 30, 40, 50% in the negative because of your fixed income, and you are taking out credit cards to cover the difference of what you can't make up, all of that has a domino effect, and there's no relief in sight right now. Okay. So as it's projecting, it looks like it's only going to get worse. And I've said a few episodes ago that we're going to have a record year. We're not done breaking records, and this isn't in a good way. There's a lot more pain to come, unfortunately. So this is the question that people have to decide. Where are they going to pull their funds from? Are they going to be able to afford to buy that house that they want right now? Should they sell the house they have so that they can, make ends meet? And I'll tell you this, the sacrifice I will not make is everything that I put aside for my family, retirement, investments, all that. But I'm going to tell you right now, there's people who are going to be cashing in their nest eggs just to survive, and make the ends meet in the next 6 to 9 months.
Tony, I'm sitting here right now in a soft kind of advisory word of caution of thinking, saying to myself, maybe I need to reevaluate the trend for the remaining portion of this year and start making a conscious decision on setting aside some different things so I can go ahead and offset. I saw a report out of Bakersfield, California here a couple days ago when they were talking about the increase in prices in their area and inflation, talking about how some of their local citizens there out of California, due to the 8x multiplier in inflationary cost of goods, would have to actually make an extra $6,000 to $8,000 a year to go ahead and offset these things just to live the lifestyle that they want. What are your thoughts? What's going on in California? I know that down there, the median average household price just broke across $1 million in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, it did in Orange County.
Break it down for us.
Yeah, LA Times reported that Orange County, the median price, $1 million. When you look at homes that are 40 million and 100,000, they're taking the middle number as opposed to dividing 1 million homes and getting a mathematical outcome. So in summary, yeah, it did, and even people who are making 90,000-ish a year in some parts of Orange County, it's pretty tough. So sometimes they have to relocate to another county where it's more affordable, which one day will probably be worth more money, you hope. So what I was doing, and some other agents who I know, people want to buy a house. Of course, we want to buy and sell a house. It's what we do. But anyone out there listening, if you're thinking about getting into the game and you're really not sure and you have financial concerns, two things I'm going to stand on. One, try to find a real estate agent who's really being thoughtful and careful with you about when to purchase and how much money you should be spending. And number two, having an accountant. You don't have to be rich, but whatever little bit of money you spend with a real accountant to sit down and reveal everything about you financially, so you can have an individual whose job is numbers to tell you what you need to do budgetary wise, paying off bills, looking at your income, and coming up with a plan, because people will be emotional. I really want to buy a house. Oh my God. And if you have an agent who really wants to sell a house, now you have a bunch of people, for example, who may have bought recently and probably shouldn't have at the time, and maybe get their financial scenario in better conditions, paying down the rent, maybe trying to find another kind of a job, and then go into a position where you can probably buy something that's more comfortable to afford. So moving forward, if anything happens, you want to have the best possible chances of keeping your family safe. So just because people want to buy a house and agents want to sell a house, you need a cool head. So a good real estate agent, whoever that is, who's patient and thoughtful and careful, and going to an accountant at least once. What's going to happen realistically moving forward in summary? Nobody really knows. As I said the last couple of shows, it's about affordability. Can you afford the house? If things happen, will you still be okay as much as possible? And be patient, but definitely do something. And an accountant is probably your greatest weapon right now to help make a clear plan.
Thank you, Tony. Nick, according to this Realtor.com Economist report, home price growth is beginning. Well, actually, here, mortgage interest rates are expected to keep going up this year as they're influenced by the U.S. Federal Reserve short-term interest rate. The Fed plans to raise its rates several more times this year in an effort to go ahead and curb inflation. And that's expected to push mortgage rates up. What are your takes on this?
Yeah, I mean, well, first thing, so just because the Fed raises rates, it's not a direct indication to mortgage rates, right? So like that's the first thing. But I do think we'll probably be in a scenario, the mortgage broker friends that I'm talking to, we're definitely not done, right? I do think we could touch 6% or be over 6% by the end of the year, which is really a really scary scenario because the housing prices are still continuing to climb. So like Tony said, as agents, we're always a little bit of psychologists, if you will, at the same time, right? We're talking people off the ledge sometimes. I think right now more than ever, like Tony said, you need to be a steward, not have the commission breath, but really make it a point to educate your people as much as possible as to what could possibly happen and make sure everybody's safe.
Interesting.
And maybe time to get a side hustle, right?
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, all interesting things. I think we all should just go ahead and keep a close eye on what's happening. So if you're in the market to go ahead and purchase, it's extremely competitive out there. We've seen it nonstop, right? This increase in interest rates have started a feeding frenzy of homes because people are in a position where they might have a fear of missing out. Obviously, they're hearing that interest rates might rise because we're trying to go ahead and curb inflation and inventory is low. We have shortages all over the place. But it's really crazy out there, ladies and gentlemen. So how to find a home to purchase in a competitive real estate market? We're going to go ahead and spin this with some of our team here. But beforehand, this is what's happening in the United States of America in some places. Watch this open house video.
All right, for months now, we have been talking a lot about this hot housing market. Actually, for almost a year, I know we've been talking about it. But tonight, one video recorded by a local realtor may show better than anything we could ever tell you just how competitive this really is.
CBS 17's Sean Cudahy joins us live with a video shared thousands of times and the message that agent hopes that it sends. Sean.
Rod and Angela, this video is something else, and I tell you what. So we're talking about this house right here behind me. I pulled up Zillow today just to have a look at the listing, and I saw that it had been saved a few hundred times. So that right there going to be a pretty good indication things are going to be competitive. But wait until you see this video.
It was really, really chaotic.
Ann lives in Raleigh's North Farms community and could not figure out what was happening on her street Tuesday evening.
They were double parked in the cul-de-sac. The yard looked like they were having an auction because there were people everywhere, you know.
But no, not an auction, just an open house for this 1,400 square foot, 3-bedroom, 3-bath listed at $260,000.
I just want you to take a look at all of the people.
It was so busy, one realtor who had brought her client to look started filming.
Absolutely insane. The line goes all the way in the back.
The realtor behind the camera,
People were frantic.
Monique Edwards.
They just wanted to make sure there was no holes in the walls, ran upstairs, and then said, okay, I want to put in an offer.
Well, certainly that video is jarring to see. Realtors tell us something they see happen all the time these days.
I wasn't surprised at all.
Edwards hopes this shows
When we say that there is a housing crisis, we really, really mean it.
a crisis for housing under $500,000.
They have jobs, they have families, they've got a good income, but that middle housing is where our supply is really, really horrible.
When you realized it was just an open house, what'd you think?
I just went home and thought about selling my house.
All right.
Did anybody get that lady's name in North Carolina that was thinking about selling her house at the end?
She says, I'm going to go sell my house. It was a block party down there, Mr. Nick Sakis. So obviously there's competition. I've never seen this kind of a thing before in all of my years, where I just haven't seen it. So, gentlemen, let's break this down for everybody. If you're possibly buying, if you're selling a home, if you're a real estate professional that's watching us, what are some of the things that we can do to go ahead and be competitive, set ourselves up for success, so that we're not running around inside these homes and dealing with this kind of stuff? Chris, what do you do to represent your folks relationship-wise and really getting out into the marketplace to set yourself apart?
Man, where do I even start? We could do a 5-hour episode on this. Yep. I've been blessed with an incredible amount of success, but first off, what I like to do is you really want to know your client and almost pre-approve them before they get pre-approved. So you really understand the strength of your buyer so that you can represent them when you do put forth that offer. And that's going to set you apart just a little bit. So then when you start building that relationship with that listing agent, you can show them the strength to get to close. Because ultimately what that listing agent wants is to get to the closing table, because they don't want to fall out for any reason and have to re-spend the money for listing, marketing, and so on and so forth, and the stress for those sellers. There's this thing, everybody's heard it, highest and best by Sunday at 5. Well, what does highest and best mean? Well, highest doesn't necessarily mean the best in dollar value. The strength of the team that you have that's supporting your offer for your client is going to be a very big factor in consideration to the number that you're also supporting it with. I've beat out full cash offers with conventional loans when I go and build that relationship with the listing agent. And I also have my lender following up with that listing agent, showing them the strength of my buyer, showing them that they have the proof of funds, showing them that it's going to be an easy closing. And the whole 30 days that when we're married for this whole, escrow period and closing period, that it's going to be a smooth transition. Just this last weekend, we came up with a situation where the seller ended up having to buy a home out of state. And, as per the contract, we were going to give the rest of the down payment at the closing table. Well, they weren't able to buy the home because they needed that down payment like yesterday. Well, easy enough. We were able to do it, and we, wired the money early. And it's those types of things. And that listing agent, he knew he could come to me, and we had that relationship already. And he knew that from the very beginning. And when we won that offer and went under contract, it's a whole package deal. It's not just sending an email for your client and that, hey, these are that letter that everybody tells you to send and showing a couple of pictures of your kids. It's way, way bigger than that nowadays. You've got to, do the guerrilla type stuff and really build the whole package.
That makes perfect sense to me, Nick. relationships are so important in real estate, and to have a representative for me as a seller or a buyer to go ahead and have good relationships on each side of this transaction. Because to be honest with you, I don't want to go ahead and, how do you even sort through the noise? There's so much stuff going on out there, Nick, with like these new programs of do it yourself, and you don't need representation. And it always comes back. Every single home that I've ever purchased or sold, I've prided myself in finding somebody and that was going to represent me and clearly work that relationship side. How important is that in a competitive market, Nick?
Relationships are everything. I do have a pro tip. So we talk about relationships and thinking about the other side, right? And Chris is spot on. A lot of times it's about the price, but you can negotiate sometimes with, money down, maybe more money down in escrow, maybe a delayed closing. There's always extenuating circumstances. But a pro tip for you right now as a buyer's agent, okay, you're all you can consume and think about, like, oh my God, I've shown these people 40 houses, I've submitted 57 offers, nothing's hit, you're burnout, you're tired, you're like, please just accept this one. I want you to take your buyer's hat off and think about the perspective from a listing agent. Right now, it's the best time ever to be a listing agent. And it's also the worst time ever to be a listing agent. Because if you're not a listing agent and you've never had to sift through 50, 60, 70, 80 offers and present all of that paperwork to a seller, it is a ton of work. So a pro tip, if you want to get your offer seen, you need to be the most organized. You need to make sure that you're filling out the contract completely in its entirety. And you also need to make sure that you are attaching what we would call a one pager. If you can send a contract to an agent along with a one pager of the exact highlights of everything and or pluses and minuses on each subject line of where you're willing to negotiate on top of what you've already sent, that makes the listing agent's life so much easier, and they see that you're organized. And I promise you, you will be in the top of that list just by having the organization in place, because that listing agent's going to appreciate it and they're going to know that you and be right on time. So I know it's hard because we're filling out tons and tons of offers, but the organization of everything, if you're submitting an offer and you're leaving blanks, not on purpose, right? And you're not filling out completely, like a listing agent is literally tossing your paper. You're going down to the bottom of the stack and they're going to say to the homeowner, here's an offer, but they didn't even fill out the paperwork. We got 25 behind it, kick it to the curb. So be as organized as you possibly can.
Outstanding.
To piggyback on that with Nick too, and showing that listing agent which parts of the contract and highlight where you're able to negotiate, on the inspection clauses, on, the earnest money deposit, on the down payment, and then also have multiple, if you've got a strong buyer, show that the listing agent from your lender different forms that they can get financing from. Put the whole package together and send it, and then highlight everything in that one pager, but then also show them where you're able to negotiate and be flexible. Every transaction is completely different, and show them that you're willing to negotiate on every level. That's the biggest thing. Nick really hit it out of the park.
Chris, you're winning so much for your clients compared to the majority of real estate agents because of your tactics and your relationships, and so much so that you're sitting down writing a book on how relationships win the game in real estate. And I'm excited to go ahead and read that when you get done with it. But if any of these other real estate professionals, or if people that are wanting to purchase and sell homes are needing to go ahead and tap into you, how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, shoot me an email at cmanka@chrismanka.com, or you can text or call me at 707-685-6254. I'm on Facebook, Chris Manka, Instagram, Chris Manka. Or, Real Estate American News. You can find me pretty much all over the interwebs.
Thank you, Christopher. Ladies and gentlemen, I highly urge you to get in touch with Chris. He definitely is winning more than most. And like I said, he's beating out cash offers with conventional offers based upon relationships. So it's about getting to the goal line. So if you need any advice or tips, get in touch with him. He's a true professional. All right, to the last segment, to the final breakdown, ladies and gentlemen. Inflation. How inflation and oil prices are affecting the housing market. We're going to roundtable this with everybody here. But let's just take a quick look at what this 4-decade high of inflation is that we're all dealing with. We've got a special report.
Russian invasion of Ukraine is contributing to soaring gas, food, and shelter prices. Inflation is the highest we've seen in 4 decades. Local 3's Elise Zwick is standing by in the studio with how the housing and construction market is feeling the impact here. Elise.
Cindy, I spoke with Doug Fisher, the executive officer of the Home Builders Association of Greater Chattanooga, and he says just when home construction was starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel after the shipping backlogs from 2020, now inflation is expected to slow progress right back down.
Here we are again, and I think we're going to just experience it all over again.
Doug Fisher, the executive officer of the Home Builders Association of Greater Chattanooga, says petroleum is used in more construction products than people think. With the pain at the pump, this means receiving materials made with petroleum will be impacted too.
10 to 15% of every product used in a home has some type of petroleum-based product in it.
Some products for constructing houses that use petroleum are roofs and the binding agent used for oriented strand board OSB, wood on the sides of housing, flooring, and roofing. All of these materials, along with many more, were already hard to get during the height of the pandemic due to the shipping backlogs.
It has been so incredibly changed in the past 2 years, starting with about COVID. We are way, way, way behind in housing.
The housing market can expect to see purchase prices increase even more, with diesel trucks estimating over $1,000 to fill up in Tennessee.
Every product that goes into the construction of a house at some point in time was on a truck. And the cost of transportation always gets baked into the price of the house.
Fisher also says with the problems we've seen over the last few years, there are less than 800 homes in our area on the marketplace, and it's typically double or triple that. Reporting live in the studio, Elise Zwick, Local 3 News.
All right, we're going to go to Chris here real quick. Quick question for our takeaway. Obviously, as the dominoes fall with inflation, everything has an increase in prices. New construction markets, 6 months ago compared to right now, Chris, where are they at in your neck of the woods?
Way inflated. Construction is through the roof. It's in high demand, and the prices on average for just a home 6 months ago till now are above $100,000 in purchase price, and even more. So, I mean, it's just, you can't drive down the road without new construction popping up, and the prices are not stopping from going up, period.
I saw some people were camping out in a new construction development to go ahead and get into the office first before other people because they were so desperate for homes. That's crazy down there. Tony, what's going on with your area? What do you see 6 months ago to right now for new construction?
Wow. I mean, besides the waiting lists that are growing, and people, even my clients are asking me, hey, Tony, you're really good about connecting with agents in your area. You know anybody in the new home build? Well, yeah, I do. But a lot of times those sales agents, they don't have the flexibility, not always, that you think. The pro tip, speaking of the new building, the new builds, many times the real estate referral fee or the commission is baked into their budget, as well as their supplies like fuel, for example. That's estimated as well, so the consumer's always paying for it. So while nowadays these new home builds, I mentioned on the last show, in some cases these builders aren't even offering commission because we don't need you right now because the demand is incredible. Price goes up, the cost for fuel, labor, and materials and supplies, all that's going up, and that's all getting baked in the price. So the competition is just getting a little harder. 6 months ago, you were better off, and now they're going to go up. So in summary, what I have always tell people is, with brand new home builds, do you think when you buy that home, is it going to go up, 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 or is it going to go down? And those new home builds around here have just grown beautifully in terms of price, but some people just can't afford it right now.
Tony, how can people get in touch with you if they're looking for representation in Southern California?
Oh, they can either go to TonyBarbarino.com, right there on the screen, or they can always call or text me 949-633-6741.
Outstanding. Thank you, Tony. Tim, Texas. Everybody's running to Texas. For good reason. What's going on in your neck of the woods?
Well, I mean, Texas is apparently a destination spot if you're trying to run away from, high taxation, inflation, and high cost of living. However, that's migrating too. All right, so it's even for locals, and I think about the people on fixed income, Social Security, things like that, who are paying for the house they bought, and as everything is going up, including their taxes, it's tough living right now. But there's no doubt. I mean, I even think about the construction. There's a property I own, other side of town, $100,000 neighborhood, less than $100,000 neighborhood when we bought it just about 13 years ago. And I drove by there the other day, and there's a $500,000 house that literally the windows look into the yards of all these other houses that are used to be sub $100,000 neighborhood. Now it's like 250, right? But a $550,000 home, that's their view. Okay, it ain't pretty, but that home sold in a day. So there
Tim,
you go.
your team helps people use a lot of their equitable position and get prepared financially for a lot of different things. How can they get in touch with you if they need some help?
Yep, best way to do that is through our encrypted email account. We use Proton Mail, so you can reach out to patriotwealthnation@protonmail.com and just fire an email at me, and we can take it from there.
Outstanding. Thank you, Tim. Nick, it's a lot of information to go ahead and pack into a 1-hour program. I wish we had a little bit more time, but we don't. We're about 3 minutes away from closing her down. What are your high-level takeaways here, Nick, on the show?
Takeaway is to be as transparent as possible with your people. When you have clients out and you're meeting them for the first time, all of the things that you're thinking about, they are also thinking about, right? So make sure that you educate as much as possible, as much as you can, about the different areas of things that are going on, what they should expect or what can expect. And if you're a buyer's agent, like I said, be as organized as you possibly can on submitting those offers. And if you're a consumer and you want to purchase a home, now's a really good time to take a real close look at that budget. If you want more house, you're probably going to have to cut out a lot of things in your life.
Nick, how can people get in touch with you?
RU Nation, baby. Check out the show page.
RU Nation. Ladies and gentlemen, go ahead and get signed up for all of our post show notes over at RU Nation. And if you have some hot insider news in your neck of the woods that you want us to go ahead and cover in roundtable, please enter the information and one of our team members will get in touch with you. You can also get in touch with Nick at that exact same page too if you need to talk with him for any reason.
That's right.
Nick, thank you for co-hosting Real Estate America's News today. Have a blessed rest of your day, Nick.
Thank you, sir. You too.
Yep. All right, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of things to think about. Should you reevaluate your purchasing decisions right now? Are taxes going to be increasing in your local marketplace? Take a look at it. Maybe now is the time to budget for any type of offsets on your escrow account for your personal mortgage. And if you do have an equity position sitting inside of your home, how can you possibly use it? I highly urge everybody to check out Mr. Tim Parnell. Go ahead and email him. He's got a lot of awesome information. So, guys, Twitter, if you haven't been there in a while, might now be the time to re-engage that platform. We'll keep a close eye on it and keep you informed. But from all of us here at Real Estate America's Newsroom, we wish you an absolute blessing on the rest of your week. And we look forward to seeing each and every single one of you guys next Thursday at high noon Eastern, 9 o'clock Pacific. We couldn't do the show without you, ladies and gentlemen. We highly urge and ask you to go ahead and travel over to our YouTube pages and like and subscribe and shoot us some likes here on Facebook. It really helps the algorithm grow and helps us get more exposure to more folks with all of our information. Have a blessed rest of your day until we see you next time.